So we're going to officially start the 3-day workshop for Creature Original Design. Welcome, everyone. I'm really happy to have you all here. I have spent some time really structuring this workshop and planning it. So I'm hoping to cover everything that I want to cover and want to share with you. It is going to be pretty chill. So if you have a notepad or if you use something like Evernote or Notion, things like that on a computer or an iPad, feel free to also take notes. The whole purpose of this workshop is just to give you the tips and tricks so that you can upskill yourself in creating a creature design. So I'm going to cover a few things that you can practically apply to your workflow. So ultimately, the goal of the workshop is to help you realize that this whole process of creating creatures and building a unique original design is not that complex. It just needs a few steps and a few techniques, a few tricks that could help you move forward, let's say, in your design process. So I'll try to keep the chatter and the all the stuff that I'm going to talk about in terms of conceptual stuff relatively simple, so that as you listen to it, you can also actually apply it and work it. So I'll try to create a space for you to work on this. So the creature that you see here on the screen, this is the one that I kind of like prepare as I was testing the step for this workshop. So this guy right here is a simple, ZBrush sculpt. There's not much to it. You'll see that it's actually pretty simple. But what adds complexity to it is the way that I sort of like added the textures, the details, the rendering, a bit of compositing and all of that. But the core of the sculpture is like the basics of the sculpture is very simple. And this is what we're going to tackle in this workshop. So we're going to create very original designs. Now, I want to say a couple of things just to make sure that that I don't mislead you in terms of what this technique is. So this technique that I'm going to show you is borrowing concepts of the kit bash technique, which is just taking a bunch of little pieces and putting them all together to create something else. That is the core idea of this technique. But it's a technique that I personally wouldn't use for creating, if I have like a specific brief, for example, of creating a Viking lizard warrior character. Right? If I have something like that, I wouldn't use this technique, because this technique allows for what I sort of call like creative, like creating abstraction or creating ideas from abstraction. So in other words, what you will end up with is chaos, and that chaos that you create, then you need to problem solve it, right? So you need to create a design based on that chaos. It's going to make a little bit more sense when I actually show you this stuff. But it's an important concept before we actually start the workshop, because it is great and it's ideal to create original creatures and weird concepts. But when you have something very specific, it might not be the technique to go for, right? Because that requires to follow the brief a little bit closer. Whereas with this one, you can create absolutely anything. So if nothing else, this is a great exercise to warm up, but also to create your own concepts and designs. Anyway, the point that I want to come across is that this technique is great for this specific, genre of weird creatures. But you can also bring it down to something a bit more literal. So I also use this technique to create these type of things. And this is just like a little robot that was done 100% in a 3D modeler, Substance 3D modeler, which I'm hoping I can also cover and show you some techniques in there as well. So yeah, it's a technique that is dedicated, or like this workshop is dedicated to creature design, but the technique itself can be translated not only to other type of characters or other type of creatures or designs like a robot like this. And not only that, the technique itself can be translated to other applications. So mainly we're going to be working with ZBrush, and that's the main part of the workshop. But you can also use other stuff like 3D modeler. You can, if you have an iPad and you have Nomad, you can do the same thing. It's a technique more than a software specific. So that's why it's really exciting. All right. So another thing, here is something that I created yesterday. Well, I've created before, like the blockout, but I wanted to kind of like reinforce those or like retest the steps that I'm setting up for this workshop. And I created this guy, or like finished this guy. Here's the render. And the reason I want to show you this one is rather different from the first creature that I just showed you, because this one has a bit more of a human face or a human expression. The other creature is a lot more extreme alien weird creature, whereas this one is still weird, but you can sort of identify certain features that are more like human-like. And the point is that these two creatures, let's put them here side by side. This is pure ref, by the way, what I'm using to collect all these images. And we're going to do that in just a bit. All right, so the point is that these two creatures are done with exactly the same technique, the same workflow. Everything is exactly the same to produce these two concepts, right? But the main difference is that one is more on that creature weird side of things, which is really cool to do. But the other one has a bit more of a, let's say, a literal interpretation of what a human could be. And that's what is exciting about this technique.